All right, NBC News is reporting that senior Trump administration officials were expected to meet at J.D. Vance's house tonight to discuss several issues, including the Epstein case. The meeting was set to include the DOJ's Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, as well as White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles. Well, here's what Vice President Vance said about it earlier today.
It's completely fake news. We're not meeting to talk about the Epstein situation, and I think the reporter who reported it needs to get better sources.
Look, the whole thing is a hoax. It's put out by the Democrats because we've had the most successful 6 months in the history of our country, and that's just a way of trying to divert attention to something that's total bullshit, okay?
Tim Cook must have just wanted to erase himself at that moment. We are still waiting to learn more, but right now it is unclear whether that meeting happened tonight. But you know, it did happen tonight. Our nightcap came over. Basil, we still want to, we are still waiting to learn more, but what do you think about the reporting around this meeting?
Well, first of all, it's not the Democrats and fake news because Ghislaine Maxwell wasn't moved by Democrats to a different prison. So let's just be clear about that. They've got to find a way to get this under control, right? This isn't so, you know, if you ask the average voter whether or not they care about this, they do care, but they've got other stuff on their mind, which we already talked about. But for the president's base, for this sort of MAGA base, they've got to find a way to deal with this and put a lid on it, which they clearly cannot. So, yeah, I think there are these conversations taking place. I think J.D. Vance is part of these conversations to try to figure out how to deal with this controversy, how to manage this. I don't see an out, though, unless they give Maxwell a pardon and say, name everybody else except Donald Trump.
Okay, so let's say that's what the game plan is. Let's say Ghislaine Maxwell is going to get out and somehow, some way, she's not going to mention Donald Trump, or if she does, she's just going to say barely knew him, nothing, nada, zippo, zilch. Are people going to buy that?
No one will buy that. She perjured herself. She's a known liar.
Will the MAGA base buy it?
No, I don't think so. I think
because they buy a lot.
I think I've wrapped my brain around trying to figure out what the end game is
but
here.
Like those are the same people that have looked at the January 6th and said it was a tourist day.
And I think maybe the end game is that Ghislaine Maxwell says something just, something that pins it all on Bill Clinton or Barack Obama or something where it's a distraction. I don't think absolving Donald Trump, who we know is in these files, is going to work. I will say two things. One, for the Vance comment, it was notable that he said we're not going to be having a dinner where we discuss that. I mean, they could be having a dinner. He didn't rule that out. But two is, I think the big picture story here for me is Todd Blanche and Pam Bondi being involved at all in these types of discussions is a perversion of the Justice Department, the likes of which we really have never seen. I mean, these people are supposed to have some semblance of independence from the White House. Todd Blanche, of course, was Donald Trump's former lawyer, who is now Deputy Attorney General. For him to go and talk directly with Ghislaine Maxwell is incredible. And I remind people, in the 2016 campaign, a huge controversy was when Bill Clinton stepped onto the airplane of Loretta Lynch. Because everyone assumed that is just a no-go. You do not talk to the Attorney General.
Holy cow, great point.
Yeah, I remember that.
And here we are, where the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General are reportedly going to dine with the Vice President to game plan how to handle this scandal. It's a remarkable and crazy development.
Okay, well, I want to go back to just that remarkable image that we saw, because Susan Glasser made this observation today kind of about the absurdity of this moment, where she wrote, watching Tim Cook stand there as Trump calls the Epstein scandal total BS and J.D. Vance denies that he's having a scandal management meeting tonight at the VP residence. This is America's greatest businesses standing in the middle of this circus.
Yeah, they lack character. I mean, think about this. They disavowed this president. They stepped off all of these sort of business councils right after the Muslim ban and early in 2017, after Charlottesville, after January 6th. And here they are. They all lined up behind the dais or behind the president at inauguration. They were giving personal money. They were giving their company's money. You know, Tim Cook is giving $600 billion earmarked to, for 4 years during the second administration.
And he would argue that he's got a fiduciary fiduciary responsibility, and this is how you.
Can I ask you this? When they were like these DEI warriors, over the last 5 years ago, in such a cynical fashion, they just disregard all of that and all that. I just think they lack a lot of credibility right now. And I think that, it was a time where we looked at these companies and they were, kind of incubated here, and they just were so innovative, and they'd become our national champions. And, those 10 companies that we talk about, they make up 40% of the S&P 500. That's an index with 500 companies in it,
Yes.
right? So these 10. So they have become behemoths, and they think they can do whatever they want, and they are using their influence to influence a president who is easily influenced. And